Hey guys, welcome back to the Otter Creek in Rio Grande. So I'm getting ready to start structure builds, specifically the Atlantic cable mine. And you know, the layout was completely trashed. You know, I've been doing scenery, so I had scenery materials everywhere. And sometimes you just have to stop everything and do a complete reset. You know, especially if I'm transitioning from working on scenery to structure builds, I have to start with a clean workbench. And so I got to thinking, it's been a while, I haven't really talked about the workbench, and that's something that I personally am always curious about. You know, people model what tools, materials, what does their workspace look like, why do they do what they do. So I thought I would do kind of a one-off video here and just kind of share my workbench and my thought about the modeling process. So for me, modeling kind of breaks down to tools, material, workspace, and organization. Those four things are very key to me, because if you have the right tools and you have the right materials and a space to do what you need to do, it just makes the process so much easier. When I built all the structures for the Time Saver, I was using the little bitty workbench that I have over here that's now the spray booth area, the airbrush station. And it was just an act in frustration. I had no room to my left. What little bit of room I had to the right, things piled up. I just never felt comfortable in that space. So when I built my workbench, I kind of had in mind where certain things were going to be and what the layout was going to be like. So, you know, the workbench to a certain degree was purpose built. So with that being said, I'm going to just kind of take you on a tour of the workbench and point a few things out. Over here to my far right as I sit, I've got this set of drawers, and pretty much I've got all of the garbage paints that I no longer use. I've got some paint brushes, and really this is just a place to store stuff that I probably don't use anymore, and some of that stuff may go away and it get repurposed eventually. And I need one more of those because another one fits there perfectly, but I relocated that, and I'll probably talk about that here in a minute as well. So on the bottom right, all of this is everything I need to build turnouts. So I've got a couple of different wooden things that I've built that I make use of as I build turnouts. I've got all of my fixtures and other things that go in here. And so all of that has a specific place. So when I'm ready to do turnouts, I know where I'm going. I've got everything. Now right up above it, I've got the fiber paste and some mold stuff. And this is kind of a catch-all for everything. I've even got Band-Aids. So this space is kind of unutilized for anything more than extra space. Now over here on the bottom, I've got some alcohol. I've got 3 different grades of alcohol and India ink that I never use. And then I keep glue and my wetting agent there. And then up above that, this is all of the glues. Pretty much everything from this over is glue of some kind. And really anymore, I make use of like maybe 4 different glues. Plastic glue, I've got 2 different grades of super glue. I've got a debonder, I've got the wood glue, and then I've got the matte medium, which is now my favorite adhesive for about 90% of everything. And then just to the right of that, I've got the paint extender, and then I've got a couple of different things that can use for water, the Golden's GAC 500. I still need to work a little more with that. I'm not completely finished with figuring water out yet, but I'm working on it. And then over here, So if you count the floor underneath, I've got a cardboard box there that all of my tape is in. I've got various different types of tape in there that I make use of. And then this hole is cutting devices and hand pliers and things like that. And then up above it on this side, I've got all of my measuring stuff, and then in this area to the right of the measuring stuff is things that you would use to sand and file. What I'm supposed to do here, and I haven't done it yet, is those are supposed to be slide out drawers, and so there's a lot of unutilized space on the back side that eventually, you know, when I have some kind of drawer that slides out that's nice and long, I can partition, you know, and specifically have areas for things. But what's happened is I didn't know exactly what I wanted where, so I have done a lot of building since, and so now I have a pretty good idea of how I'd want to build those slide outs. Now, I didn't mention it, but over here I keep bricks, because sometimes having weight available to you is very handy. So I keep some bricks around in various different places in the layout room. And I've got no water, so I always keep a gallon jug of water near me as well, because you always need water, right? The far end to the right, I have now completely cleaned out all of the junk rail cars, you know, that didn't run on the railroad, that all need some love and attention. Those have been relocated to another workspace, and I'll get to that eventually. But I'm going to try and keep all of this as clean as possible. But, you know, horizontal locations on the railroad always end up gathering things. Now, just to the left of that, I've got 6 drawers, 3 bigger, 3 smaller. Pretty much, I haven't done anything with these. This has been a catch-all that was in the house for a while. There's a lot of in-scale stuff in the bottom there. I've got some HO scale things in the top, some detail pieces that are going to be carloads, and I can't even remember what all I've got in there. But that's a work in progress that eventually I'll get around to, and optimizing that space. So this area, you know, you've probably seen it multiple times before, but this is the primary work area, right? I've got plenty of room to my right, and I've even got room to my left. I'll talk about that in a minute. But, you know, I've got a line of AK products on the back there, different filters and things. I don't use those a lot. They require mineral spirits to thin. I do use them, but I prefer them for plastic. I have used them successfully on wood before. And we've also got a lot of different little hand tools here. I've recently picked up nippers. I don't know what they're technically called, but I got 2 of those, one a little bigger than the other. Wonderful tools. I found those used on eBay and got them in, I think, 3 or 4 different sets of tweezers for like $30. It was a steal. Got a couple of God hand drill bit things here, and just everything that I primarily use is right here directly in front of me. Eventually, I want to get one of those magnetic tool holders to kind of hang up here somewhere and optimize a little bit better. Small drill bits, a bracing bit, whatever you call these things. I've got mineral spirits, and then I've got a box of all of my most common used paints. These are what I use primarily more than anything else. I've also got some on the back there. Having a solid light source is always probably as important as anything that I've mentioned. up to this point, and I would like another one of these lights, which are pretty handy. I'd like another one here stationed to my left so that I could have equal amounts of light coming from left and the right. I also keep my favorite stains right here next to me. You know, the dead wood, the silver wood. I've got Hunter Lines, Cordovan brown, creosote, and what's the other one? Thai brown. And then I keep a couple of bottles of spray water near me because that's always handy. Now let's take a look over here to my left. Kind of wrapping around from where I sit this way. You know, obviously this is a computer station, and when I originally started the layout, I made the decision that I was going to use a Raspberry Pi as control for everything. Not really control, but that my primary interface to make use of JMRI and the LCC. I've since kind of decided that, you know, I bring my laptop in here almost every time I come in here. And so I think what I'm going to do different, I think I'm going to get rid of the Raspberry Pi and put some kind of docking station in here so that anything that needs a USB or whatever, I can dock my laptop here and then have hopefully eventually two screens there and a remote control keyboard, and I think that will be more efficient than the Raspberry Pi. I haven't completely made up my mind on that, but I think that's what I'm going to do. If you've been with the channel for a while, then you're already aware of this, but I haven't used it in about a year, so the new subscribers will probably not know about it. And this thing is one of my favorite things about the modeling space, because this just kind of keeps a lot of things that you pile up in a smaller workspace. You can have a dedicated area for, like the chopper and the sander. I don't remember what that's called. I've got 4 more 1, 2, 3 blocks. I've got some squares here. I got squares here. I've got a piece of ceiling tile that's great for poking things into. I've got my scrap plastic here, my scrap wood here. I've got detail parts in this thing that I didn't use for whatever reason, or they're just kind of crappy and I haven't found a place for them yet. On the underneath side is where I keep most of my scratch building supplies. So I've got this box, which is mostly round stock, and I think I've got I might also have some angle iron and other things in here. And then similarly, I have this, which is mostly strip material, all plastic. And then I've got this box, which is all of my wood, mostly strip, and then I've got a lot of just plain balsa as well. Some of it is scribed, like this is, I think that's beadboard. I've got some that's extremely fine that could work if I wanted to as metal siding, which I don't know that I will ever use that. Just a lot of different stuff in here, and really this is too full. I would like to separate out the strip material from the sheeting material eventually if I end up getting another box like this. This over here, this is full of more dedicated sheeting material, and then I've got all of my Monster Model Work stuff for brickwork. Got several different sheets of brick type material in there, all wood still. I got a whole thing of popsicle stick type material, coffee stirrers that sometimes comes in real handy, real cheap. And I got another box that's full of shingles, various different other types of building material. Mostly shingle material is what I've got in here. I've got a few detail parts that I haven't found a place for on the layout yet. Doors. And then finally, I've got another box that I got some more shingles that, you know, that sheet doesn't fit in my shingle box. And then I've got a whole thing of pretty much windows and doors and other detail parts like chimneys and things like that. The idea is to kind of have everything you need before you ever start. On the back side of this, which I'm not going to mess around with going back there, I've got some like 3 feet by 2 feet, I can't remember what the dimensions are, of Baltic birch and a few other things you might need to scratch build. Another thing that I like to do, and you can see I'm already kind of set up to start working on the Atlantic cable mine. I've got some of the parts laid out here already, the instructions, but I like to have pieces of plywood that I can move and keep things on. I've got several of these for dedicated different things, and so this one is for a smaller project. And I built this at the same time that I built the workbench, so if I need to, I can take that off and put it up here. And I can bring this a little bit closer, even closer than I am now. The camera tripod's in the way. But I can put various different sub-assemblies here, whatever I need to do in the workspace. So I've got what's directly in front of me, you know, on the bench itself. And then I've got kind of 2 more areas, high and low, and of course the area there. So that just, it makes modeling in this space so much more efficient. And I know not everybody can do something like this, but if you haven't attempted to create any kind of dedicated space for modeling and you have the space, it's worth doing. I've got one more area I want to show you guys. It's kind of new, kind of not new, but I'm going to take you into the original Otter Creek Studio. This is the original Otter Creek Studio. So the songs that you hear at the beginning of each of my videos, Dirty Shame and Dancing with the Devil, was recorded in this space. And so now I've decided to change things in here and kind of make it the Otter Creek and Rio Grande car shops. So I'm going to take you on just a little tour of what I've got going on in this space. It's under construction, not completed yet, so bear with me, but I'll show you a few things. Over here to my right, I have a 3D printer that is about 90% put together. I still have a few more things to do to it. It's been on the back burner for a while now, just because I haven't been in a headspace, I guess, to think about printing detail parts, but I am getting closer, and that's kind of something that I'm wanting to work towards maybe this winter. Over here, I've got a set of drawers, and the top drawer is basically couplers and trucks. Pretty much everything in there has something to do with couplers and trucks, which tends to be the #1 issue with rail cars in my experience. And then this next drawer down is what scant parts I have for decoders. because that's something I haven't got into yet. I've also got this, which is a motor for a Blackstone that needs to be cleaned up. I think I can make that reusable. And I've also got a few of these. I think these are Maxims. I can't remember. Yeah, very nice motors, but they're really long. I don't know if I'm going to be able to make use of them or not, but that's kind of my decoder drawer. And then the bottom, I've got primarily car parts. I've got probably at least one full train's worth of box cars in here. And I've also got some reefer kits that I haven't built yet. And I think Lynn McCurdy gave me 6 or 8 stock car kits that I can build. So I've got plenty of cars to build, and this space is kind of what I'm dedicating to work on those things. So in addition to having cars and locomotives in here, I also have Azrael the cat, and he's come in and done his inspection of the room and is just going to lay there like a lump and be in my way, which is okay. I'm good with that. It's better than what he normally does, is to just jump on top of things and bat things off onto the floor. Now the desk itself, it's actually a dedicated audio desk, but it's going to be converted to working on model railroad stuff. So I've got a brass locomotive here that's kind of in the stages of getting a decoder. I've got another brass car there, a tanker that has no couplers. That's a whole nother issue. And I've got couple different power packs up here that I can work on rail cars and or locomotives. Now this is still under development, I guess is the best way to describe it, because I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to work on this. I've got this, which my good friend Claude gave to me, and let me get a little closer and kind of explain that. So these things, I think, were originally by DCC Concepts, and I think they're now called like Layout Concepts or something else. I'm not sure what their new name is, but it's HO, I guess HON 3.5, which is something weird in Europe because it's a European country. I'm not sure where they're based out of, the Netherlands maybe or something. I'm sure someone will correct me in the comments, but unfortunately, these do not work for narrow gauge. So I'm kind of still out of being able to set up a narrow gauge locomotive on track. And I also only have dual gauge at the moment, so these won't even work for dual gauge, which I think I can go in and widen this, because it just needs to come over just a little bit, and then I think it will drop in there, but it's going to take some modification to get these to work on dual gauge if I want them to. I don't have any standard HO track to do anything with. So, one of the things about, having more than one space to work on is you end up with needing kind of 2 of everything. And that's where I'm at on this. I don't have 2 of everything I need to do what I'm doing in here and in the layout room, but I'm getting closer. Kind of my idea here is a spool update for having this 100% functional is this winter. And of course, I'm also going to try and keep the space available for audio if I need to. Of course, the idea, beyond using my jazz bass as a place to hold my magnifiers, I can also have the jazz bass plugged in. You can't see it here. But this input source right here that I've got a couple of different kinds are interfaced up here so that, you know, I can stay plugged in here and not have to have a cord draped over everything. And, you know, with a couple of switches that are on the underneath side right here. The whole space comes to life, and I can either model or maybe play some bass guitar. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else in here I haven't really covered. I think that's probably about it. This should make working on locomotives and cars, because, you know, one of the things that eventually I'm going to have to get into is I've got probably, I don't know if I've got as many, but I've got pretty close to the same number of locomotives that are brass that don't have decoders as I have locomotives that do have decoders and run on DCC. So I'm going to have to get started on figuring out, you know, how to do that, which is a whole nother learning curve. And also with the 3D printing, whole nother learning curve. So I think that covers it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I know I did a lot of talking, but thanks for watching the Otter Creek and Rio Grande, and we will see you in the future.